Hi, I'm Courtney McQuade with Markets Group here at our Alt Chicago event. With me is the one and only Aaron Filbeck, Managing Director at CAIA. Aaron, it's great to see you.
It's great to be back. These are awesome events.
And it's nice to see you outside of Twitter. I usually only see you on Twitter.
Yes, yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
We have. So this event is our biggest yet here in the Chicago location. What are some of the hot topics that you hear people talking about?
Yeah, well, it's been a great event in terms of the topics that we're covering here, whether it's what institutions are doing in their portfolios, the democratization of alts, private credit is always a hot topic, particularly over the past couple of years. But it's diverse. We've covered a lot of ground in about a day and a half. Lots of really good takeaways.
Fantastic. And of course, then I have to ask you about private credit. That has been a hot topic in most of my interviews today. Do you think we're at the bubble?
I don't know if we're in a bubble. One of the jokes that I made when we were introducing the panel was, raise your hand if you're bullish on private credit, and the other one was raise your hand if you're concerned. And I think both could be true. There's been a secular trend of the banks retrenching, assets moving into this space, and the need for capital for funding company operations and so on. But at the same time, the past 2 years, we've seen rates go up. We've seen some cracks in interest coverage ratios, and so there's almost this secular versus cyclical trend that's kind of at odds with one another. So I don't know if it's a bubble, but I think moving forward, being cautious and manager selection is more important than ever.
Absolutely, and maybe we'll know more by the end of this year.
And hopefully, it's not too painful.
And so you also had a good panel session today on your total portfolio approach, the paper that CAIA co-wrote with some other great investment firms. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so total portfolio approach is this new concept that we've really seen emerge from a very small handful of asset owners, particularly outside of the U.S. And a lot of these organizations started this from scratch. So they had the benefit of setting out on the front end and saying, we're going to do things a little bit differently and use a couple of tenets of asset allocation that might be different than what you find in a traditional long-term pool of capital. So we introduced that concept on the back of a paper we released earlier this year. Our president, John Bowman, gave a keynote kind of setting the stage and the context behind why we're talking about this and why it's so important to talk about this. And then my panel was focused on talking to some very smart, sophisticated asset owners on how do you grapple through these concepts, because we don't have the benefit here in the U.S. of starting from scratch. We're working through our own governance structures and doing things a little bit differently than what you might find outside the U.S. So it's challenging. Some people can do it better than others, and for some people it's not appropriate at all.
And if people want to find the white paper and take a look at it, where would they find it?
Yeah, so the paper's on our website, available to anyone. It's right there front and center. So I'd encourage you to read it. There's always something to take away from one of the contributors, because everyone does it differently. And one of the punchlines that we had and John had in his presentation was, this isn't a model like the endowment model or any of the other models that we've seen. These are philosophies, there's some tenets, and there's different ways to go about this.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again, Courtney.
And we're live at Alt Chicago.